In war, victory doesn't always belong to the biggest guns or the most expensive machines. Sometimes it's the clever, the cheap, and the unexpected that change everything. These were the weapons that proved efficiency could outfight extravagance. The German schnellboat or fast boat was a high-performance coastal strike craft. It was fast and lethal for its size. Each cost about 2.3 million Reichsmarks, roughly half the price of a Type 7 U-boat, and powered by 3 Daimler-Benz MB501 diesel engines. Its wood-over-alloy hull demanded skilled craftsmanship and constant upkeep. Pushing speeds of around 40 knots, the engines endured extreme stress and required specialized maintenance. While rugged for its mission, the lightweight hull limited its use in open seas. Crews of 24 men trained extensively in night torpedo attacks, coastal navigation, and formation tactics, making them elite small craft operators of the war. Despite range of 700 to 750 nautical miles and other limitations, S-boats were devastating within their domain. They sank over 100 merchant ships, or about 214,700 tons, and several warships. Their most memorable action was when they sunk 2 LSTs during Exercise Tiger in 1944, which was a rehearsal for D-Day. Their effectiveness forced the Allies to divert destroyers, aircraft, and minesweepers just to counter a few boats. The S-boat's real power wasn't just what it sank, but how much it could disrupt Allied strategy. A handful of fast boats forced massive defensive overhauls across the Channel and North Sea. Nicknamed the Wooden Wonder, the de Havilland Mosquito revolutionized aircraft design with its plywood and balsa airframe, which conserves scarce metals like aluminum. This construction allowed mass production by furniture makers and small firms, and cutting costs dramatically to less than £18,000 per unit, compared to £45,000 for a Lancaster. Using just 2 Merlin engines instead of 4 also simplified logistics and reduced maintenance. Over 7,700 Mosquitoes were built in Britain, Canada, and Australia. The wooden airframe proved both durable and fast, with bomber variants reaching around 380 miles per hour, far faster than most contemporary fighters. Its speed and agility were its best defense, resulting in loss rates nearly 10 times lower than heavy bombers. The lack of metal also minimized corrosion, enabling faster mission turnarounds. A 2-man crew, a pilot and navigator, operated the aircraft efficiently, slashing training time and manpower costs compared to the 10 crewmen required for heavy bombers. The Mosquito's versatility was unmatched. It served as a bomber, night fighter, pathfinder, and reconnaissance aircraft, also performing precision raids like Operation Jericho and Operation Carthage. Despite tragic mishaps in some missions, its success proved one aircraft could replace many. The Soviet T-34 became the defining tank of World War II through its perfect balance of firepower, protection, and production efficiency. Designed for mass production, it used cast parts, welded armor, and sloped plating that increased protection without adding weight. Costs dropped from 270,000 rubles in 1941 to 135,000 by 1943, while build time fell from 8,000 to 3,700 man-hours. Over 57,000 units were produced, making it one of the most numerous and cost-effective tanks ever built. Its V2 diesel engine and wide tracks gave it excellent mobility and reliability in mud and snow. Early T-34-76 models suffered from weak transmissions and poor visibility, but the later T-34-85 fixed these with better optics and a 3-man turret that improved crew coordination. Standardized components across factories simplified field repairs and logistics, which were vital for wartime conditions. On the battlefield, the T-34 dominated early encounters. Its armor rendered most German 37mm and 50mm guns useless until heavier weapons like the 88mm flak appeared. At Kursk, mass T-34s overwhelmed German panzers and forced the creation of the costly Panther and Tiger tanks. The T-34 didn't just win battles, it bankrupted the enemy's war machine through sheer efficiency and scale. The M3 submachine gun was America's answer to wartime cost and production challenges. It was a weapon built for simplicity, speed, and savings. Designed as a cheaper alternative to the Thompson, it used stamped sheet metal, rivets, and welds instead of precision machining. Costing only $21 per unit in 1943, it was nearly 90% cheaper than the early Thompson and less than half the price of the wartime Thompson model. Produced by General Motors' Guide Lamp division, over 622,000 units rolled off the line by war's end. Built with loose tolerances and a simple open-bolt blowback system, the M3 stayed reliable even when dirty or wet. Its low rate of fire made it easy to control and durable in the field. The improved M3A1 version simplified operation further, which replaced complex parts with practical refinements. Lightweight at about 8 pounds, it was ideal for tank crews, drivers, and paratroopers, which required minimal training and maintenance. The M3's affordability let the U.S. equip vast numbers of support troops while freeing Thompsons and M1 carbines for frontline combat. The M3's true power wasn't its bullets. It was how it turned mass production into arming an army without draining the whole industry. The 81mm mortar was one of the most cost-effective and versatile weapons of World War II. Built from just a barrel, bipod, base plate, and sight, it was simple to manufacture, requiring minimum machining and materials. Each round was muzzle-loaded and fin-stabilized. It was cheap and easy to produce. Unlike heavy artillery, mortars needed no trucks or prime movers, which cut fuel, logistics, and maintenance costs dramatically. Its rugged steel design had almost no moving parts, making it extremely reliable in mud, snow, or jungle. A 3-man crew could disassemble it into portable loads, set it up within minutes, and deliver precise fire where heavier guns couldn't. Basic training was quick, which allowed rapid deployment across all fronts. Firing up to 3,300 meters, the 81mm mortar gave infantry their own artillery support to drop high-explosive, smoke, or illumination rounds over ridgelines, through forests, or into urban rubble. It proved invaluable in close terrain like Normandy's Bocage and Monte Cassino, where line-of-sight guns failed. The 81mm mortar didn't just support infantry, it turned them into their own artillery unit. The Sten gun was the ultimate symbol of wartime efficiency. It was cheap, fast, and very simple. Costing only less than £3 or about $10 in 1942, it was barely 5% of the price of a Thompson. Made from tube steel, stampings, and welds, it used minimal materials and could be built by unskilled labor in small workshops. This allowed the UK to produce over around 4 million units to arm soldiers and resistance fighters across Europe. Its open-bolt blowback design used very few parts, making it easy to maintain and repair in the field. However, its crude finish and flimsy magazine often caused jams, and early models could accidentally fire if dropped, which was a trade-off for ultra-low cost. Still, it was light at about 3 kilograms and compact, ideal for paratroopers, commandos, and vehicle crews. Its simple breakdown design also made it perfect for resistance forces, easily smuggled and reassembled in secret. The Sten became a weapon of liberation, equipping partisans from France to Poland. It turned willing civilians into armed fighters at minimal cost, forcing the Axis to fight a war on multiple fronts. The Panzerfaust was a purpose-built disposable anti-tank launcher that showcased wartime cost efficiency. Priced at only 20 Reichsmarks and produced in excess of 8 million units, it used a simple, low-grade steel tube and a recoilless design to avoid complex recoil mechanisms. With minimal machining and the ability to run production in small, dispersed factories, Germany could mass-produce an effective anti-armor weapon quickly. Being single-use made it logistically trivial, requiring no field maintenance, spare parts, or recovery, which simplified supply chains. Training was minimal, as a single operator could learn basic range estimation, arming procedures, and safety discipline to manage dangerous backblast. This reduced personnel and instructional overhead while dramatically increasing squad-level anti-tank density. The Panzerfaust-shaped charge warhead delivered excellent penetration performance. Common variants like the Panzerfaust 60 and later Panzerfaust 100 could defeat 200 millimeters of armor or more. It was enough to defeat most Allied tanks at close range. Mass issuance transformed light infantry into tank hunters, notably during urban fights such as Berlin in 1945. This forced Allied and Soviet armor to advance cautiously and coordinate tightly with infantry. The Panzerfaust didn't just destroy tanks, it imposed a strategic friction that cost the enemy immensely, far beyond its tiny price tag. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next videos.